in 2008. This received the Friend of Labour Award, the Meritorious Award, the IT Award, the Friend of MCD Award, and the Public Service Star Award in the 2009 Indian National Day Awards.
I've never had a chance to talk to a young audience like today, and I feel very honored. I think it was 400 BC, there was a great Greek philosopher, Socrates, and he spent his time teaching the young by asking questions, and he was always getting to the truth through questions. Unfortunately, the regime or the government didn't like it, asking too many questions and discovering the truth. So they asked him to drink poison and kill himself, which he did. But I'm sure that would not be my fate today at least. But I'm very happy to be here. And I want to tell you that when Mrs. Khanna spoke to me and said she'd like to invite me, I asked her, why are you asking me? And she said, you have varied experience, and that would be interesting for the students. I was happy with the answer, because many occasions when people ask me to speak, they tell me, we want you to speak because you are successful. Now, I have a problem with this word success, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Because if you are talking about varied experience, yes, but success, have I achieved it? What does it mean? That is what I want to talk to you about. Let me start with the broad canvas. The history of the world since Second World War. You know, Second World War was fought between the Western powers, meaning Britain, France, America, against the fascists and the Nazis. Hitler, Mussolini, and of course Japan. And you know the result. The Western powers were successful, they won the war. Now, what did that mean? What success did they achieve? Because immediately after the war, the whole world broke up into two camps. It was the Cold War period. You had US and its allies, and you had Soviet Union and its allies. So it became questionable whether there was actual success. What did that success mean? Because you divided the world, and a second world war was imminent almost at that time. So success has to be questioned. Is it durable? It is all-encompassing. What was success? If you come nearer in history, the last few years, Saddam Hussein was toppled by America. The Taliban was defeated by America and Afghanistan. But what happened after that? Chaos. And then, of course, one individual burned himself in Tunisia, and that started the Arab Spring, and everybody was happy in the Western world, saying, oh, new era is going to emerge in the Middle East. Mubarak fell, Gaddafi fell, and you had Yemen, Tunisia, all of them having getting rid of their leaders. But what did it mean? Because just 2 days ago, there was an article in the Herald Tribune to say that in Libya, there is completely no government. So what is happening is, those who were tortured by Gaddafi's people are now capturing their tormentors and torturing them the same way. To me, this is the most barbaric way of taking revenge. So, success, oh yes, great success, great. Democracy was at our doorstep, it was going to come, get rid of dictators. But what do you supplant it? Not success, but misery. So, look at success to mean what it really is. Now, I think it is much more durable and it has benefited mankind. Now, let me move on to success of Singapore. I was asked this question, whether Singapore would be a good place to groom a global citizen. Our founding father of Singapore, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, was once asked, what do you see the future of Singapore? And he said, I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether 50 years from now, Singapore will exist as a country, because it's so small. There's no land base, it has a very small population. But my own feeling is Singapore will exist, because Singapore has found a model which is an example of bigger countries. Whether it is China, whether it is India, even for Europe, Singapore does teach something to the people. Because I think Singapore actually has models which benefits its citizens. Whether there is ample democracy, whether there is ample discussions, those are not as important as the fact that people can live in dignity. There is law and order, they can send their children, their daughters can travel within their time and feel no fear. You see, sometimes we get carried away with this concept of democracy and we say, oh, very democratic. In India, I sometimes have a lot of arguments. And I ask somebody, the young fellow who has got 5 children, earns about 10,000 rupees, how does he do? If he takes a bribe, the policeman quits, the common takes a bribe, is it wrong? Because that's the only way he can survive. Singapore, fortunately, we have moved from that. We sometimes overpay our way, but at least the spectre of calamity doesn't exist in Singapore. So I would say Singapore is a success. So I've talked about the international, I've talked about the scientific, I've talked about Singapore. Next, I would like to touch on my own career, because that's what Mrs. Khanna said was interesting. I've worked longer than the ages of probably your parents, because I've been working for the last half a century or more than 52 years I've been working. So I've done quite a lot of things. Very varied things, but with a central theme. I started life, you would be surprised, as a teacher, because I went to university on a teaching bursary. And so
I'm not from grade 9, and actually your courage was multi-phase nature, being in diplomacy, IT, and management. What would you suggest our generation should be focused on one particular field and excel, or both skills in more than one field?
This again is a difficult question to answer. It depends on your aptitude, your interests. I think, as I said, it is interesting to have something you do apart from your job. It keeps life interesting. I always had that, because like when I was chairman of FairPrice, they didn't even pay my parking fee, but I did it because I was interested in the trade union. I'm chairman of ISAT, there's no payment, but it enriches my life, so I do. Now, whether you are prepared to do that, I'm not sure. But what I would say is establish yourself in whatever you're doing until about maybe 35, 40 years. Then you start thinking of what else can I do to enrich my life. Then maybe you go into other areas. Diplomacy is not something that is given away very freely. I happen to be lucky because I was interested at the time when they were looking at appointing non-resident ambassadors. I told you that we started with 3, and Singapore government, true to form, found that to be very cost effective. So now we have more than 30 non-resident ambassadors because they have found it successful. So if you are a Singaporean, you live here and you have that opportunity, yes. But you can make a career of diplomacy. Let's say you go back to India, join the foreign service. It's a very interesting career. I can tell you from my own experience, it really is something that if you have an active mind, a fairly agile tongue, you can talk, then I think it's a good profession for you to consider.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Sir, you've been very close to the labour force, and you were also founding chairman of GIIS. Sir, I would like to know the importance of labour and skilled people in the nation's building. Could you please share some insight on this?
Yes. I think you must look at the way labour has evolved in the world. If you, I'm not sure whether any of you have read Charles Dickens. During the time of Dickens was a great novelist, maybe perhaps the greatest English novelist ever. You read a book called Hard Times, where you see how workers were treated. They were treated as if they were slaves. You know, you just ill-treat them. Many parts of India this happens, even today, because they are not organized. So, over the years, labor, and this is some achievement that Karl Marx, because he was looking for the dictatorship of the proletariat. He told the workers of the world, unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. In other words, you unite, you stand together, form a union, you are much stronger. And that has happened everywhere. So, labor has become unionized, and labor is an absolutely essential part of any economy, because they're involved in manufacturing, they're involved in services. So, yes. So what do we do? Do they become confrontational with the employer? The example that Singapore gives is an employer-employee cooperative, number 1. Number 2, we try and train and educate our workers the maximum that they can get, so that they become much more productive. You know, because it is absolutely essential that they learn a skill and they are good at that skill. Because otherwise they won't learn enough and you have a problem. So for Singapore, United States is probably one of the most productive countries in the world. Because 1, they've got very good equipment. 2nd, the labor force is well trained and they contribute very well. Singapore is not bad in the context of Asia, but still not up to the United States. We spend a lot of training, a lot of time and resources on training the workers, because they are an absolutely essential part of the economy of the country. So, to work in any level is not bad at all. Don't think that you must all wear ties and you must all wear, you know, white collar shirts and so on. No. Get your hands dirty, do some work. One of the problems in India, for instance, is that people think working as a mechanic, working as a carpenter is below your dignity. My caste doesn't allow me. So rather be unemployed and untrained. So you have few thousand ITs in India, most of them very fully employed. In Singapore, we have IT, we have a polytechnic, we have an engineering college. So there's a progression and they become much better. So labor is important, but they must be trained, they must be organized, they don't become wildcat strike holders. Wildcat means, you know, you just on the whim of this thing you have a strike, you waste a lot of money. I once asked Mr. Narayan Murthy, who was once your guest here, Why is that you don't have, your centers in Kerala and West Bengal? Because they're two of the very literal states. He said he sent a team to Kerala, and he said from the airport to the hotel, there were 3 demonstrations, holding up traffic and so on. He decided, but now he has a center, but at that time, he decided not to do so. So a confrontational relationship between labor and employer is bad. Labor which is not trained is bad, but if you train them, they are cooperative, can be a great force.